Hey everybody, this is Andrew Cummings, and it is now Missionary Monday, and I'm trying to work because I'm kind of dealing with some glare here, and last week this was the perfect place to work, and now I seem to be getting a glare, and I noticed even on last week's video that I was getting a glare every time I went like this with my glasses, so I guess the solution is not to go like this with my glasses. We'll see how that works. So anyway, we've got a lot to do today, a lot to cover. Going to be some neat stuff we're going to talk about. So I'm here with my carbonated beverage, and excuse me, and we're ready to go. So let's get things off. Let's get things started today. I want to give a shout out. I posted, even today, we'll be talking about some different things that are up on my website. I just wanted to get a shout out to the guy who designed the website and who helps me maintain it. He's kind of indispensable to what I do. His name's Chris Brown. You can look him up on Facebook. He's got an organization called Tech Ministries, and his specialty is helping ministries set up websites and do different things related to technology. And so, Chris Brown, thanks a lot for all your work. He also has a live broadcast. You can check out when it is. I think it's on Fridays. I think it's on Fridays, if I'm not mistaken. But you can check him out, and be sure to do that, especially if you're in ministry and you're wondering, what do I do? There's a lot of companies, but they cost a lot, and but you don't want to do it all yourself because you don't have time to do that. It's Friday at 1 p.m. His live. He goes live on Facebook on Fridays at 1 p.m. So be sure to check that out. I know he's been indispensable to me and to what we do. I don't have the time, and I don't have the know-how. And so he takes care of all of that, and very, especially on a ministry, very reasonable, I feel, for outlay of cash for what he actually does for me. So I really appreciate that. I've known Chris for a number of years. I don't even know if he remembers this, but we went one time, had an adventure. We went to New York City. And I don't think Chris went with us when we went, but Chris was the guy who was our go-to guy. I was in Cortland at the time, and we went from Cortland to New York City for a street party they were having at a church there. It was a blast. So anyway, get that. Chris didn't ask me to do that, and I don't get any kickbacks for doing that, but I just really appreciate what he does in our ministry, and also, he goes down to Brazil every once in a while, so that's cool. Maybe one of these days when he goes to Brazil, he'll come to my city. So we'll have to see if we can work that out. This week's activity, couple different things went on this week. Really exciting. First of all, over the years, I've collected a group of people that work in Brazil, that friends on Facebook, friends that work in Brazil, friends that work in missions. And our contact has been pretty much Facebook. Well, and then not only friends who work in Brazil, but other people too. And this has been the year for meeting a lot of people who, up until now, I had only met on Facebook, and or our contact we'd met once a long time ago, but then we just met on Facebook. So this week we got to spend some time with Matthew and Elciene Carroll, who are missionaries in Brazil in Fortaleza. They came home on furlough, came through Florida. Got to spend a day at our house. Four delightful boys that they have. We really had a great time. It was really neat to get to meet them. He's just as nice a guy in person as they appear on Facebook, and it's really exciting to see what God's doing through their ministry in Fortaleza. We had never met before, but we know a lot of the same people since he works in Fortaleza, and a lot of the guys who I worked with at the seminary have gone to Fortaleza, so it's a very small world. And we were talking, oh, you know him. It was great. And I don't know if they will hear this, but Matthew and Elsieni, safe travels and have a fun road trip. And then last night was very cool. Last night we celebrated the 50th anniversary of our sending church, Fellowship Baptist Church in Lakeland, Florida. Now, it's our sending church, our commissioning church, our ordaining church, and I had a chance to speak yesterday. And when I spoke, I used what I referred to it as our mothership. You know, in the old science fiction movies, all the aliens would come down in their little flying saucers, but there's always this big, huge spaceship hovering somewhere above Earth that they go back to. Well, that's what I feel like with Fellowship Baptist Church. It's our mother church. We spend 4 or 5 years in Brazil, and then we go back up to the mothership to get to be debriefed, to recharge our batteries, and to learn and to sit under the ministry of the church and of Pastor Pyatt, Pastor Dan, Pastor Smith, and the other people there, and then go back to Brazil recharge. So we had a great time. It was a really neat time of remembering. I've been going to fellowship now been a part of fellowship for 20 years. Wow, that just saying that makes me feel old. And so, but there were 30 years of history before I ever showed up, and so it was neat to hear some of that, see some pictures, lots of friends I hadn't seen in a while, and then I got to tell you, the highlight of the day was in the morning service. They had a man named Jason Nightingale. If you have ever had the opportunity to hear this man, if you ever have that opportunity, you must take it. Jason Nightingale's specialty is quoting Scripture, and not just a verse here, a couple verses here, a chapter here. He quotes entire books. Now, I had heard him before up at Bible Baptist in Cortland, New York, years ago. I heard him quote the book of Hebrews from beginning to end. And so I kind of knew what I was in for, but this time he quoted the book of Revelation. And when you go to hear him, you sit down, and first it's the novelty. This guy is going to quote an entire book of the Bible from memory. That's kind of a big deal. And so I was very excited about that. And of course, when you begin the service, that's the thing. It's not something you hear every day. This guy's going to quote it. You know, I wonder if he can do it. I wonder if he can go all the way through. But not too long after he starts, you kind of set that aside, because the way he quotes it and the power with which he recites the Scripture, and suddenly you find yourself with the Word of God pounding on your heart like a jackhammer. This is just incredible. It's an amazing experience. What I'm going to do, in fact, I've got the link here, and I'm going to put it put it underneath in the comments here, and you can visit this site, and this talks about his ministry. And like I said, if you ever get a chance to go hear this guy, you should. It's just brilliant. I just got a note here from one of my friends in Brazil that yesterday also the Peace Baptist Church, which was a church that we attended when we were in Juazeiro do Norte, they just celebrated their 47th anniversary, which is really neat. So congratulations to them. I'm going to be doing on Thursday. I'm going to start this on Thursdays. I'm going to be doing one of these broadcasts every Thursday in Portuguese. Okay, it's going to be destined toward our Brazilian friends, and especially to our church there. We're going to call it, I think I'm going to call it TV Ebenezer, and it'll be destined to our church plant there. But of course, anybody who speaks Portuguese is welcome to listen in. I'll be sure to give Peace Baptist Church a shout out, because that's also 47 years yesterday. Very interesting. The church we attended in Juazeiro and our church both celebrating their anniversary on the same day. That was kind of neat. There's a couple things I'd like to bring to your attention, just news items. First of all, I tweeted about this the other day, but it was, I believe, Saturday, that there was a a helicopter that went down, a police helicopter that went down in a neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro, and the all four police officers died. And when it was first reported, it was reported as they said that the helicopter had been shot down. That was the report. Now I'm seeing reports come through saying that might not necessarily have been the case. It might have crashed. Because of mechanical failure or whatever. But whatever the case, it sparked some extreme violence in a city that's already known for its violence. And so I have friends and colleagues who work in Brazil and who minister in Brazil, and so I would really appreciate your prayers for those guys, and also be in prayer for Brazil and as a whole. The violence is really out of hand. It's at intolerable levels. Society cannot function that way. But then every time I think that the violence in Brazil is bad, I read an article about Venezuela, which is our next door neighbor there in Brazil, and I'm gonna post this article, which I found to be very, very complete, very well written. I'm gonna post this right here on the. Okay, and there it is. It's from the New Yorker magazine. Don't let that stop you, though. It's a really interesting and complete analysis of what's going on in Venezuela. And I have friends who worked in Venezuela and who still work there, or who used to work there and then were kicked out by the Chavez administration. And so the neat thing is that we have Brazil being right next door to Venezuela. Several different opportunities, many opportunities for Brazilians to go and be missionaries in Venezuela. In fact, there's a young man who was a student at the Bible college where we worked our first term, the Cariri Baptist Seminary, Fernando. And Fernando is now, he's graduated from the seminary, and he's now a missionary in Venezuela. So be praying for him, be praying for Fernando and his wife. Lots of challenges. There's violence in Brazil, and Brazil is lots of things going on, but Venezuela is descending quickly into chaos, and so their government is more interested in maintaining power than dealing with the issues. So just really be praying for that country as well, and for Brazil, because we're right next door, and for Brazil's authorities, that they'll be able to get a handle on all of this violence, and for Brazil's believers, that they'll be able to maintain Christian testimony in the face of just the violence that goes, and especially for Rio with what's going on there now with the helicopter crash and all that. So lots of things going on now. Let's see. Let's talk about this. I need to put up another neat thing that happened this weekend. It was on Saturday, and I'm going to put this page. I think I'm going to put. There we go. Yes, there it is. Little background at our city at our church in São Luís, Brazil. Our region, our churches there. We have a youth association. So our young people got together, and we've then formed a youth association where they meet at different churches and have different activities and bring in preachers and have youth conferences and so on. And so their annual meeting was on Saturday, and it was at our church, at the Ebenezer congregation. And it was really neat because the auditorium, the room we used for the auditorium really isn't big enough to host a group like that. So they had them out, had it outside. And so the pictures they got, you can really see what the building looks like and where they're meeting. They're kind of looking up at that wall there. That will be actually, when our building is complete, that is going to be our our sanctuary, our auditorium at the church. So I'm going to throw this site up here also, and you can look at that. And it was really neat. And also, if you look at that picture, there's two kids. Among the pictures there are two of the young men are from our church that are now serving on the directory of the of Umbrema, it's called, the Association of Churches. So that's just really neat to see the young people in our church being involved and taking leadership in our association meetings. Their pastor is very, very proud. Okay? And then another thing that went up on the site, many of you know, some of you may not know, but many of you know that I worked this last summer. I worked for a gas company up in upstate New York, a natural gas company. And my job was to paint the gas meters that needed to be painted. We had over 1,000 of them that needed to be painted. And to mow lawns, the grass around some of the pumps and stations and so on. And also do whatever else they came up with me to do. And so I walked the line a couple times with a couple guys looking for leaks. I actually was able to be with a guy whom they found a leak in a residential area and had to get everyone in to fix that. And that was pretty neat experience, and a lot of learning experiences that I had back then this summer. A lot of things I learned. And so what I did, I kind of synthesized some of the things I learned, and they're in no particular order. Some of them are profound, some of them maybe not quite so profound, but I put them on our website, and I just put the link up there. 10 lessons I learned while working at the gas company. So you can look at that also, and a lot of interesting things that I learned. There's a picture of me in my full gas company regalia, I guess you could say, while I'm there. Let's see, what else do we have on our list? We're getting to the end of it. Oh yeah, we didn't do this last week, but we need to talk today about other people's books. Other people's books. I really need to come up with some sound and some theme music. I don't know how I would do that here on my back porch, but perhaps when we get to Brazil and I have a more permanent space, we can do some neat theme music. Anyway, so I'm reading right now a couple books. I'm reading St. Augustine's City of God, or Augustine, I guess a lot of people call him, City of God. That's something that's ongoing. That's a huge book, so I'm not going to be done with that for a long time. I might talk about that as we go later on. But I'm also reading a biography of Ulysses S. Grant, and it's really interesting. And I'm going to be talking about that a little next week, because there's some interesting things in there about reading and so on, and the formation. I've read lots of biographies of U.S. Grant. This one deals more with his intellectual and spiritual and cultural formation. It's fascinating to me how it deals with it. So lots of good stuff. The book I read this week is not nearly as serious. In fact, it's hilarious. And for a long time, I have followed on Twitter and on Facebook a guy who calls himself the Church Curmudgeon. And what the church, and you should do that. And I'm going to put I'm going to spell out his name here. It's on Twitter. Let's see if I can do this here. At Church it's all one word. Church Curmudgeon. And I do believe that's how it is. So if you go on Twitter and put in Church Curmudgeon, or even Facebook, I think it's Church Curmudgeon. It's like that. And the guy's hilarious. And if you need comic relief during the day, just go. Basically, he makes he pokes gentle fun at American church life. The actual author and the actual author behind it is actually a youth minister. So it's friendly fire. It's friendly fun. He's not blasphemous at all. But he's hilarious, and he's provided me with some much needed comic relief every once in a while. So he basically what he did was he compiled his funniest tweets into a book, and I'm gonna see if I can find that. I thought I had that, but I guess I don't. I'll put the link there for you, but I'm gonna read some of these to you real quick. The name of the book is called Then Tweets My Soul, the Best of the Church Curmudgeon. And here's the link. Let me put that up there. you really need to get this, and you really need to sign up for his Twitter account because, like I said, it's hilarious. I'm going to read some of these tweets that are in this book. For instance, he picks a lot. He does a lot of picking on worship leaders, and so he goes, just got the new worship leader study Bible. Repeats the last verse of each chapter 7 times. All right. Of course, the old complaint, modern hymns just repeat things. This one's great. The blended service is where we all take turns getting ticked off. This one's great. Pastors, context is key. My calves are killing me means one thing at the gym, another at the barn. I know you guys are just rolling on the ground laughing at this. This one's great. This one, who's never seen this on Facebook? I love how people who mock the Bible for having food laws change their whole diet on the basis of a Facebook link. Hilarious. Okay. And this one's great, and I'll end on this one. And this one, of course, we can get in all you Calvinists and Arminians out there. This will spark the discussion for the day. But here we go. The Sunday school class on hyper-Calvinism has been canceled due to unforeseen circumstances. So, anyway, I could go on, but just what you do is you sign up for his Twitter, go down through his thing. It's full of stuff like that. Brilliantly funny. He skewers a lot of sacred cows that we have. It does it in a gentle way. Very, very funny. I really enjoy it. Excuse me, and I hope you do too. He's a blast. So, and then we can't, of course, we can't talk about other people's books without talking about my book. And so, just a reminder: if you haven't been there yet, go on Amazon.com and you can find Missionary Max and the Jungle Princess, and Missionary Max and the Lost City. This one's the first one. This one's the second one. Okay. If you don't want to lay out all the cash for by the way, they're $9 on Facebook. They're $9.99 plus shipping and handling on Facebook. On Amazon, if you get them for Kindle, they're $4.99. If you don't want to get both of them, well, just get this one. You get this one first, and that'll tell you whether or not you want to get this one or not. All right, and people have really. I'm gonna read something. Oh, first let me put. Let's see, where did I leave it? There it is. All right, I'm going to put the link down here in case you haven't got it. People have had some very nice things to say about this, and I just wanted to click, and I appreciate all the feedback I get on it. And so a lot of people have written it as reviews. It says someone put down here, wonderful adventure, no preaching or degrading into sermonizing, just excellent, good story of a man living out a real faith. Love the culture and people introduced in this first installment of Missionary Max. Looking forward to the next one. Well, the next one's here, so enjoy. Let's see. Let me get one more here. This one is great, and I actually know these people who wrote this. They said, our family thoroughly enjoyed reading Missionary Max and the Jungle Princess. The author introduces new storylines and characters as you go from chapter to chapter, as the plot thickens. We were reading it as a family with 8 and 10-year-old, and they loved it. And my husband and I enjoyed it enough that we might have to read it, that we might have read ahead after the kids went to bed. Ha ha ha, we might have. My son even made Lego figures for each of the characters. If I remember next week, I think I still have that picture somewhere. I'll post they sent me this picture. It was of Lego figures. It was really neat. We love Max's tenacity, strength, and dependence on God when faced with extremely difficult circumstances. So those are some things that people have said about it. If you haven't read it, you really should. And I say that with all the partiality of the guy who actually wrote it. So take that for what it's worth. But we wrote it to be enjoyed. So it really tickles me when I hear of people who enjoyed it. I wrote it actually for an older audience, with older teens and adults in mind, young adults. However, I've been surprised by the number of 10, 11, 12-year-olds that have come and said, "Oh, we really like it," and parents who've been reading it to 10, 11, 12-year-olds, or even younger kids. So that go figure. But hey, if they like it, then that's wonderful. All right, so that's what we've got today. Thank you for tuning in. Next week, I'm going to have a little more, some deeper, in-depth thoughts about the history of our church and what that means. I'm going to put those on our website, so stay tuned for that during this week. I'll add that. Remember, on Thursday when you see me up here talking and you click and you're not understanding what I'm saying, it's because it's in Portuguese. If you know anybody who speaks Portuguese, any of my Brazilian friends who are listening now, well, next week we will be, or next week, no, Thursday, at the same time. So that's 3 p.m. here in the U.S. In Brazil right now, it'd be 5 p.m. We'll be doing this broadcast in Portuguese, okay, with different subjects having to do with more to do with the Brazilian context. So that's where we're at. Once again, thank you for listening. If you have something you'd like to hear me addressed or a question you'd like to have us answer about our ministry, about what's going on in Brazil, what's going on at the Ebenezer Church, about furlough, and all kinds of stuff, then I'd be more than happy to find those and answer them. All right. Thanks very much, all you who have been listening and who've been interacting throughout the time. It's been great. We'll see you next week for more Missionary Monday.